Hello, so today we're going to talk about Uranus conjunct the Ascendant and what happens when you have this placement in your natal chart. So what is Uranus? Uranus is rebellion, it is disruption, change, it is innovation, it is genius also, freedom, and yeah, it's any sudden, abrupt event as well. And what is the ascendant? The ascendant is our physical body, it's our appearance, but it's also our personality, the first layer of our personality. It's also what we embody, what we incarnate. So what happens when you have Uranus conjunct the ascendant? So first of all, when it comes to the appearance, usually there is something that is a little striking, striking, very recognizable, unique about the appearance. This is the unconventional beauty. This is someone who is going to look different from the others, but who's going to be recognized for it. So to give you an example, a few examples, Zendaya, she has this very striking physique. She's very tall, she has very long limbs, very slender. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson as well, who obviously is unique, in the acting field especially. Who else? Mick Jagger, who was very recognizable, for his thick lips and his body, very wiry body as well. So it's not like they don't tend to have like a specific look to them. It's more like it tends to be unique. Whatever it is, it's unique, or it stands out in some way. It's striking. Also, something that I've noticed, that they tend to have a bit of a twinkle in their eyes. They can have a bit of a, it's not exactly mischievous, but it's more like they have a bit of a genius quality in their eyes. They can look a bit crazy as well. They can have these sort of very friendly and funny expressions, but a bit over the top. They're very expressive. So Eddie Murphy, for example, Emma Thompson, she definitely has a bit of a very awake energy to them. Ewan McGregor as well, he has that twinkle in his eyes. So yeah, it's funny. They have this quality to them, like they're going to do something unexpected a little bit. So let's talk a bit about Uranus and what it does to the life of these natives. So trigger warning, we're going to talk about some stuff that are very triggering. These people have gone through some crazy stuff in their lives, so keep that in mind. We're going to talk about some dark stuff. So usually what happens is that they tend to experience a lot of chaos and shocking events in early life. So for example, Eddie Murphy, his father was murdered. Betty Page, she had a lot of, she had a very traumatic childhood. She grew up in poverty. There was a lot of change. Who else? Keanu Reeves, crazy life. If you see his life, it's just a bunch of things that happen one after the other, and usually there's a lot of chaos, a lot of change, a lot of unexpected stuff happening. Also Kurt Cobain, if you read his life as well, it's a crazy life. But even in childhood, he wasn't particularly, it wasn't like his life was particularly shocking itself, but he did, at some point, he found a hangman, he was coming back from school and he found a hangman. So these are kind of the shocking events that can happen, or they can even encounter stuff randomly out of the blue, they can find a dead body or something like that. Really crazy stuff that are going to mark them for life and shock them, So it's not just that they bring disruption. Usually they have been disrupted themselves in their life, in childhood, and this is why they then embody that, right? So that's something that actually I see a lot about all the planets conjunct to the ascendant, is that they tend to experience this planet on a higher level, especially during early life. So yes, and also during childhood, during adolescence, these people, they have this outsider identity. This is when they start to really want to develop this very strong independence. These are people who wants to be different. You know, it's very much like an Aquarius rising in a lot of ways. Like I don't want to do like everybody does. There can be some. I've noticed some mental health issues. You know, Kurt Cobain as well. You know, he had ADHD, and he didn't want to, like, he had issues with authority. You know, there can be issues with authority. There can be some a lot of tension in the mind as well. Hyperactivity can be found as well. It's kind of like similar to Mercury in some ways, but it's more shocking. It's bigger. Like, you tend to see much bigger events in these people's lives. So yeah, they can be very much ahead of their times as well. They can be very open-minded about things that are considered taboo or are considered unacceptable by society as well. Something also that I tend to see, there's some emotional distance from the caregivers, you know, or the parents are not always present. You know, there can be this sort of feeling of distance, and that they sort of have to take care of themselves, and you can see that. In terms of their personality, so yes, they are quite intense, these people. They're often polarizing. They can be very unpredictable. You know, that's definitely the thing that you will see about Uranus. It's unpredictable, it's shocking, it's different, it resists rules, authority, it resists labels as well. It doesn't want to be it doesn't want to fit the mold. And it's not just that it doesn't fit the mold, it doesn't want to. So there is a rejection, like a conscious rejection of the rules. Usually, you know, it's not just like, I happen to be the black sheep of my family. No, usually these people, they want to separate themselves. Or even if they don't start like this, they then decide to. You know, there's this strong independence. And yeah, they're known for their boldness, they're known for their shock factors, they're known for doing what no one else dares to do. You know, definitely these are the people who will want to provoke a reaction. You know, they will want to get a reaction, and they get it. When it comes to the celebrities that I've looked at, definitely these people are not just famous. You know, they really represent or embody an era, you know, a movement, or like a cultural turning point. They really are icons of their times. So for example, James Dean, Uranus conjunct the Ascendant, he was also an Aquarius sun. He was very much a symbol of this rebellion of youth in the 50s. He also was in Rebel Without a Cause, you know, like, this is typical Aquarius, Uranus, if anything, you know, classic Uranus Aquarius, you know, a rebel without a cause. This is typical. Betty Page, she was very much shocking in the 50s. You know, she was a pin-up, and she's an icon now, but at the time a lot of what she did was unacceptable. Yeah, Mick Jagger, again, icon of their time. Zendaya, if you think Gen Z, this is Zendaya. Who else? Logan Paul, Uranus conjunct the Ascendant. He's also someone who kind of represents this internet culture, online culture, being famous through, you know, Vine. Also another thing about them that you will see a lot, like I said, pushing the limits. They want to push the limits of what's acceptable. So that's why they can be very controversial. You know, these are not people who play it safe or who wants to please the crowds and just do what they're told. No, they're going to push it a little bit. Che Guevara. Now this is very much when it gets more political, right? Because Uranus rules Aquarius, which is the sign of the people, the sign of the masses. So these people, they can connect very much to the masses, actually, through their difference, actually, through their sort of outsider status, people sort of identify with them in some way, and they can really, because I think that everybody kind of feels like an outsider deep down. And but Uranus people, they embody it, and they wear it on themselves. They're like, yeah, I am a weirdo. And people are like, oh well, yeah, I feel like that inside. I may not show it, but I feel like that inside, and that's why they connect really well. They also tend to represent the change that everybody wants, but maybe is afraid to do something for. So again, Che Guevara, an actual revolutionary icon, and also someone whose image has been used now. That's something also that I see, James Dean, Che Guevara, Betty Page, or Mick Jagger, even like the logo of the Stones. These are things that are used for fashion now, which I think is kind of interesting. You see that on shirts and things like that, like it's almost like a brand. So it's kind of interesting, that thing, that sort of iconic quality, the image is used again. So something that I've seen as well that is pretty crazy when it comes to looking at the celebrities who have this placement. I look on AstroTheme to find celebrities with Uranus conjunct the Ascendant, and what I've seen is that Caterina di Medici, she has this placement. So for anyone who doesn't know who she is, she was an Italian noblewoman, but then she became Queen of France, and she was Queen Regent for quite a number of years. And she wanted to marry her daughter, Marguerite. She wanted to marry her with Henry, who became then King of France, Henry IV. And the thing about this marriage is that Caterina and Marguerite were Catholic, and Henry was a Protestant. So there was this, there was this conflict between these two religions, that both Christian, but still different branches of Christianity, as you know. And this is where the conflict was born. Now, it's interesting because she wanted to create peace. And by the way, her figure is very much, she has this sort of black legend surrounding her. But actually what she wanted to do was to, through this marriage, secure peace, secure an alliance. So very forward thinking, Uranus wants progress, Uranus wants change, and Uranus is also very open-minded, it wants to progress, especially if you're a political figure. You want to kind of like improve the lives of the people and improve the conditions of lives. And what's interesting is that she has Uranus conjunct the Ascendant, but also Henry and also Marguerite. So all three people involved in this thing that happened, they have Uranus conjunct the Ascendant. So I think that this thing that happened is very typical of Uranus. And actually what actually happened is that, yes, they were married, but what happened is that the day of their marriage, or like the day after, I don't remember exactly, there was this massacre that happened because everybody was reunited in the city of Paris, and then it sort of escalated. Everybody started killing each other, and the Catholic massacred the Protestants that were there coming in the city for the wedding. So crazy stuff. Red wedding, like if you've seen Game of Thrones, this was the red wedding basically. And this is crazy because Caterina di Medici, who has Uranus on this, and she did that, and the other two as well, they did that because they wanted that change, they wanted that progress, very Uranian, very forward thinking, right? But something unexpected happened. This is classic Uranus. Uranus brings disruption, it's unexpected, it's not how you planned it. If you plan something and Uranus is there, it's not going to happen the way it was planned, It's like someone is snapping, like you just snap and something happens and you're like, why? Like it's like you're pushed to the limit and then there's this snapping moment. So yeah, I thought that this little story was pretty representative of Uranus energy, you know, something that is planned for the greater good, something that is planned for progress, right? So very Uranian in itself, but actually something else disrupting it, and also the people, you know, the people reacting. Again, Uranus rules Aquarius, which represents the masses, which represents the people. So what else can I tell you about Uranus? So yeah, these people, they are meant to bring change, and they often are able to reinvent themselves. There's this sort of fluidity about Uranus conjunct the Ascendant people. They have this sort of evolution. They like to rebrand themselves. They like to switch. They like to change. They don't like to sort of trap themselves in one role only. And like I said, this magnetism with the masses, this ability to connect with big groups of people, you know, it makes them different, but it also gives them this power to sort of channel the collective pulse, so to speak, you know, the collective need for change. So yeah, you will see that these people, they really have the power to bring people to them, you know, and to connect to the masses through their differences, through their unique qualities, through the voice of change. So if you have this placement, definitely you would have a gift for connecting online with people. Maybe you will be controversial. Definitely, you know, you're not meant to appease people or to please them. You need to be careful about what you say, obviously, you know. That can be a challenge for Uranus conjunct Ascendant people, is that they are so controversial at times, or they want to be so controversial that they sometimes they sabotage themselves. So you need to be careful about that. You know, you need to sort of find this energy and sort of channel it in good, you know, channel it in maybe it can be you know, philanthropy, activism, artistry. You know, these people are very creative, genius. Again, Bill Gates has Uranus conjunct the Ascendant. You know, or anything unique. You know, if you think that you can't bring something new to the table, and you have Uranus conjunct the Ascendant, you can bring something new to the table, definitely. So yes, that's it for this placement. If you have something you want me to talk about, please tell me in the comments below, and I will see you next on another video. Bye.